You are live.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 11th meeting of the Pierce County Fire District 5 Commissioners. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda, please.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Chairman Enzi.
Yes. Any upcoming commissioners' absence? Okay. Any communications? Okay. Approval of minutes from the February 25th meeting.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Chairman Enzi.
Yes. Accounts payable and payroll approvals.
I'll move that we approve accounts payable checks and ACH transfers, checks 1213 through 1247, 1262 through 1320, 1248 through 1261, as outlined in the agenda, for a grand total of $2,502,651.50.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Chairman Enzi.
Yes. I hear from Jake today, and there will be no reports from Local 3390. Okay, I did my part. It only took 2 minutes. Chief?
Well, we're going to take a couple hours.
All right. Chief reports.
Yeah, we're going to spend a little bit of time here just going over 2024 and then casting our vision for 2025 on the work plan. I'll kick us off, and then each chief is going to tackle their division. But if you could bring up my PowerPoint. There we go. Thank you. So we're going to go over the annual work plan of 2024 closeout and kick off the 2025 draft work plan and get your approval on that. First, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about 2024, some successes. Each chief will do this, but I wanted to highlight just a few things that we've accomplished this year. We optimized our emergency response by redoing the run cards, which we've updated you on that, and Chief Langlow will talk about today. You're also going to hear today about an innovative care facility program that we're working on to try to reduce our calls to care facilities. So you're going to hear about that. We've made obviously lots of infrastructure improvements. We've now opened up Station 53, 57, started on the training facility and 50. Financial stability. I know you've seen our new budget book this year, and I just wanted to highlight that. And I know we sent that out to you, but Chief Oldenburg and Crystal and the finance administration team has really strengthened our long-term financial outlook with the implementation of our new capital budget, ensuring a sustainable future. IT modernization. We successfully moved from Central Pierce IT, and we're fully over to Gig Harbor now. Not only saving us money, but improving our level of service through the roof, actually. Operational efficiencies, we've implemented we're trying to implement the new finance and payroll and HR software. You'll hear about that today. Wildfire readiness, we partnered with DNR with a Wildfire Ready program. Surveying hundreds of homes, and we have a grant to do another 100 this year. The WSRB re-rating is a big thing that's just happened the last couple of weeks. I can't tell you how, how much work this team has put into that. And the work we put into WSRB and serving Fox Island and moving from a 9 to a 4 or to 5 is a big deal. Enhancing our connectivity. We've been looking at ways to enhance our connectivity throughout the community. And Chief Oldenburg and Travis have been working on that so that our engines actually carry that connectivity with us. Our L&I fire program implementation and securing grants through that are just a few of the highlighted successes that I wanted to talk about, but they're going to touch on all those a little bit more. Transitioning from a 5-year strategic plan, our previous 5-year strategic plan expired in 2021, and I've been asked more than once when we're going to pick that up, and I've chosen not to renew that. Instead, I've implemented an annual work plan. Too many times you see fire departments spending $50,000 on consultants and a lot of staff time and to create a glossy 5-year book that sits on the shelf and nobody ever looks at again until the end of the 5 years. And we have embraced more of a different approach of an annual work plan. Now, many of these things obviously leak into year 2 and 3, and they're not always just 1 year. But by focusing on just 1 year, we maintain a little bit of flexibility. All of our command staff meetings and all of our one-on-one meetings focus on that annual work plan. It's what drives our annual performance review, and it just aligns the needs of our organization and keeps us a little bit more flexible and on task. So it's our strategic roadmap, obviously. It has specific initiatives and it identifies responsible parties. It's on our internal website that anybody in the department can see. It has clear deadlines, clear deliverables, and clear accountability within our department. We also have in our work plan, we call it a thematic goal. We always have one thing that the department knows that we're focusing on. Over the past few years, we've really focused on the levies and the bonds. And this year, our thematic, the reason we have a thematic goal is that if everything's important, nothing is. And I believe that us as a department and as a command staff need to know what that one thing is that we're focusing on. And like I said, in the past, it's been the levies and the bonds. And we did struggle a little bit coming up with one this year. But the one that we decided is because there's been so much significant change over the last 4 years, we decided to call it Finish What We've Started. We have so much going on and so much change within this department that we want to spend this year focusing on finishing what we started, from our softwares to our run cards, to many of the things, all the buildings that we're building on our IT. We're going to slow down. We're going to take a breath. That doesn't mean that new things won't come along, but our goal and our theme this year is to try to finish what we started, completing, having some stability and some refinement on all the change that we've had. So the first goal, I thought I was going to get away with not having one assigned to me, and when we went over this with command and general staff, somebody brought one up, and I needed to take the lead on the very first goal, and that's strengthening our labor relations. And by saying that, it doesn't mean they're bad; they're excellent. But we wanted to make sure that we focus on it. In alignment with our commitment to having a positive and transparent relationship with the Local 3390. We're going to prioritize open communication, mutual respect, and collaborative problem solving. And the two things that we need to focus on this year is our collective labor agreement negotiations. And then in maintaining that, we have monthly labor management meetings. We have one tomorrow. So I'm leading that goal, and we'll also be leading the collective labor agreement negotiations this year. So we wanted to make sure and highlight that as a goal. In my performance review and all these things, I don't do it. This team does all the work. And the one thing that I do believe that I'm good at is surrounding myself with a great team and then letting them do their job. And I'm really excited for the team that we've built. not only all of our deputy chiefs and executive assistant, but the next level too. All of our division chiefs and our battalion chiefs and our entire staff is the right people in the right seats to move this department forward for the next 5 to 10 years. So I appreciate them and all they do, and I'm glad to serve alongside them and as they actually get the work done. So I'm going to turn it over to them. Chief Langlow is going to start us off first in operations to talk about our closing out of 2024 and kicking off 2025.
All right, good evening. Thanks for having me, and thanks for letting us do this. I think this will be a good wrap up on 2024 and 2025. In a couple minutes, Crystal Pinero is going to come join me, and she's going to highlight the work that she's been doing on our long-term care facility program and looking at ways to enhance that into the future. So I'm going to roll through kind of 2024 wrap up, and then as we get into what we're doing in 25, she's going to pop up, and I'm going to change presentations to her presentation on that to give you a little bit of a deep dive on that program that Crystal's been working on. 2024 wrap up. First thing I want to mention is, as all of you know, I was not in this position in 2024, so I do want to take a moment to recognize all the staff that were involved in 2024, kind of the operations completion of this work plan, and specifically want to highlight the work that Todd Meyer did in leading that charge. So I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to thank Todd for all the work that he did for 3 decades for us, but also specifically, and he's the one that led through bringing these kind of to the finish line in 2024. So some highlights, responded to 7,531 alarms. That's how many incident reports our staff did over the course of 2024. As far as I can tell, that's the most we've ever run as an organization, most reports we've ever done. Accumulated well over 20,000 hours of documented training. There's so much training that happens, both documented and just ad hoc, that it's hard to quantify, but we tried to do our best to kind of quantify that as with a number. We did some offsite training that I think is noteworthy, including our marina drills and some active shooter scenarios in collaboration with the Gig Harbor Police Department and Department of Emergency Management. And then the Gig Harbor Marina is where we did our marina drills this year. And I think that based on the performance of the crews in our most recent boat fire, I think that's paying off. Proof that training pays off. Our operations division assisted in fire prevention and public education through station tours. Fire prevention does the majority of those, but we do help from time to time when groups are bigger. Mentored and developed new hires, lateral hires, and new officers in 2024. We did some enhancements to the automation of our staffing software. So Telestaff is the software we use for staffing. And we are always looking for opportunities to automate and enhance that so we can get our staffers, namely the battalion chiefs, out from behind the desk to be able to do some more focused one-on-one personnel training. We did facilitate the lieutenant and battalion chief academies. You're going to see that come up in our 2025 work plan as well. We've moved the lieutenant and battalion chief academies to a prerequisite test for the position instead of after the test. So we're going to run those 2 years in a row, which is awesome, but does create quite a lot of work in a compressed time frame for that group. So we're pretty excited about that and thankful for their work. Ongoing participation and peer support, that program is led by DC Booth. But because we have a significant number of our staff is technically assigned to operations, we do a lot of that with Scott. Participation in random committees, extracurricular committees, promotional committee, apparatus committee, acquired structure, reproductive health. Those are just a couple examples. Development and implemented formalized return to work procedures with HR. So the team and Janelle was a big leader in that, just kind of working to revamp and improve our return to work procedures with the goal of getting people back to their original spot faster and more efficiently. Tacoma Narrows Airport, that was a focus in 2024 to reestablish those regular visits up to the airport. Multiple retirement send-offs and promotional ceremonies. We did have one Meritus Service ceremony earlier in 2024. We're going to have another one in 2 weeks at the beginning of your board meeting on March 25th. Multiple after-action reviews of serious or unique events. We did launch a pilot dash camera program on Battalion 51 that we've been operating for the better part of 9 months and have had good success from the standpoint of the equipment is functioning. We haven't had a significant number of events we've used it on, but we did launch that program in 2024. Hosted Pierce County Wildland preseason meeting. All 3 of these rooms were stocked full with agencies from all over the county and the region, including Department of Natural Resources, South Sun 911, Cape Harbor Fire, Keep Peninsula, Tacoma, West Pierce, many of the agencies around in the emergency management world. We hosted that, and we plan to do that again this year. As Chief Doan mentioned, I want to pause on this one for just a couple extra minutes. We did evaluate and updated more than 5,400 response plans. A huge lift by Chief Meyer and Lisa Schroeder. Really, a couple goals that were important to that group or us in that was namely one area we adjusted our alpha level responses. So alpha being nearly the lowest acuity. There's an omega, but Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, like starting from low acuity to high acuity. And so traditionally, as long as I've been in this organization, and I think probably these guys up here too, we have traditionally sent engine and medic unit to every call, which is awesome. And but with the institution of our 3-person engine company staffing and our continued focus on training and continuous improvement, we felt like it might be a good time to maybe adjust that a little bit and right size or send the most appropriate resource to the call initially, and then leaving our medic units in service for higher acuity calls as long as we could. So we did started with Alpha. So that happened on October 1st. We moved to engine only on our Alpha responses, and we're right now just in the process of kind of evaluating and vetting how that's worked for us. We're a little more than 5 or 6 months into that, and we're now feel good about being in a spot where we've got a big enough sample size to kind of make a statistically relevant analysis of that. And we'll look at how that's working for us and if the opportunity presents itself to look at expanding that to maybe some of our Bravo call types. We did right size the initial response to residential and commercial fires based on critical tasks. So what I want to highlight initially here is that we're not sending less than is needed. We're sending what is needed, and part of that's adding 3-person staffing to the engine company. So we did identify what our critical tasks were, and then what's the right resource to get on the road initially. We've had good success with that so far, and I think the biggest identifier of that is the alarms that we've been dispatched to, those first alarm residential or commercial structure fires. Outside of a couple we had last week, have not needed us to add additional resources. So we're able to accomplish the mission and provide excellent customer service with the resources we have on the road, which is great. One of the metrics that we do look at is unit hour utilization of our transport units. And so in our standard of cover we did in 2021, it identified that we probably need to be thinking about how we're going to help our medic units be in service a little bit more often to be a little more reliable. And so unit hour utilization at a very basic level is what percentage of a 24-hour period is the medic unit assigned to an alarm. So from the moment they get dispatched to the moment they go back in service, either clearing the hospital or not transporting. And it's all of their calls, not just the medical alarms, but I watch that pretty close. Industry best practice is to, once it gets to kind of that 20% range, is you might want to start watching it a little bit. 30% is you really need to be doing something different because your medic units probably aren't as reliable as you want them to be. And so we have watched over the last couple of years that creep up, and then we've seen a stabilization of that number, which is great. And so all of our medic units the last couple of years, and 2024 specific, have kept it under 20%. So we're in the range of within industry best practice, and we'll continue to watch that. And so I want to highlight also that those unit hour utilization numbers have stabilized despite us running more calls. So we do think that the work that we're doing is making a difference, and we'll continue to try and reduce those as we continue to go. We did also just quick note, remove some transport units from automatic fire alarms, car fires, just a couple lower acuity or calls that we could handle with just an engine company. Quick little update on training, some things that the training division was able to accomplish in 2024. I mentioned the LT and BC academies, offsite training due to this storm damage at Station 50 that you are all well aware of. That required us for a period of time to move all of our training offsite. And so that happened. And then we have all of our training offsite now with the exception of classroom training because the training center is under construction. Transitioned hazmat into our in-house training cadre after the dissolution of PC HIT. Joint Red Card class, the Tacoma, in-service training for our new SCBAs was a huge lift. We hosted some expanding incident exercises, and then we've certified multiple members in our IFSAC driver operator process. We conducted a lateral academy. Our SCBAs, our SCBA masks have Bluetooth interface with our portable radios now. So we had to onboard that program in that process. And it actually takes quite a bit of just manipulative training to kind of train your mind to be thinking and hearing instead of through your ears, through your head. And so it's taken a lot of hours of that process. So that happened in 24. Heavy emphasis on wildland as we're watching the landscape change and we're watching us respond to more incidents locally and regionally and outside of the state. We hosted 4 days of EMER activation training. So each of our portable radios and mobile radios have a emergency button, which essentially alerts South Sound 911 that one of our firefighters is in trouble. Up until this point, we haven't had a tremendous amount of like actual training with it because we needed to kind of collaborate with South Sound 911 because it does create quite a commotion or ruckus at the dispatch center because they're really designed to be like everybody should know this is happening. And so we were able to collaborate with South Sound and do that over the course of 4 days. We hosted Instructor 2 and then some heavy rescue class that we participated in. A couple items for EMS they wanted us to highlight. We did move to a new EMS billing vendor systems design, I guess a new old one, so full circle back to systems design. We did donate some surplus AEDs to Gig Harbor PD, which is great. I've been on, when I was on the line as a battalion chief, I can think of 2 calls off the top of my head where when we showed up, they were there first and they had an AED in their hand and they got that AED from us. And so that's proof that sharing those with them was a good thing. We deployed new glide scope innovation equipment, transitioned our EMS supply cache to Station 54. With the closure of Station 51 coming up, we had to reimagine that process. We deployed new CPR feedback mannequins, and then we retrofitted legacy medic units, 2 of our legacy medic units to Stryker cots and stair chairs. New auto pulse units are on the street. We did onboard 6 new lateral paramedics. They passed probation in February of 2025, just last month. We sent 1 firefighter EMT through paramedic school, George Wong. He's in the final stages of getting checked off. He should be independent on his own very, very soon. We enhanced our communication with Mobile Integrated Health, our MCERT team, which helps our patients that we see more frequently in the community that might benefit from some extra social services. And then we developed an education program campaign at long-term care facilities to reduce low acuity calls for service. So I think with that, I'm going to kick it over to 25, but we're going to grab Crystal. I'm going to switch presentations and give you a little bit of a preview on what she's been working on in that division. So any questions while I'm doing that on 2024? Okay.
One question.
Yep.
Have we considered it all, or would it be a good idea? You indicated we've donated surplus AEDs. Sorry. You indicated I had my mic off. You've indicated that we've donated surplus AEDs to Gig Harbor PD. Obviously, the city is a decent chunk of our area, but Sheriff's Department responds in the other area. Has there been any thought to doing the same for Peninsula Detachment deputies if they don't have that capability?
Yeah, and DC Dumas is leading that charge, and I think like phase 2 of our donating our AEDs, once we kind of vetted out whether this was a functional program, was expanding to our other community partners as well as any of our off-duty folks that lived in Gig Harbor that would like to carry one in their vehicle too. So yeah, I think we're looking at opportunities to get everyone that we have that we don't need in service on a frontline apparatus, in a building, or in backstock to get it out on the street. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And I'll just briefly touch, we also have several deployed in the community, and they're being added to Pulse Point so that if you were alerted that there's a CPR, it'll show you where the closest AED is. And I couldn't tell you exactly where they are off the top of my head, but I know that Abe is working diligently on getting those added as we become aware of them.
You want to stay there? You want to come up here? Up to you.
Hi, I'm Crystal. I think I've met most of you, but I'm a firefighter paramedic at Station 59. I'm currently on light duty for maternity reasons. I've been working on this project for a while now, but really kind of got moving after doing some research and stuff at the beginning of the year. So the long-term care facility non-emergent initiative. So where we started, we identified a critical gap in the relationship between 911 services and long-term care facilities, particularly in the high volume of non-emergent calls. The goal was to develop a system that improves patient outcome while reducing unnecessary strain on emergency resources. So that just looks like trying to decrease the amount of calls that were going on that could potentially be taken care of in-house or in-home with these facilities. So what we identified is these are our top 20 addresses, with the exception of maybe 2 of them, which are clinics, Point Fosdick 4545 and 4700. Most of these are going to be facilities, skilled nursing, assisted living, and adult family homes that we're responding to. So that's just a little glimpse of our top 20 addresses. And then, as you know, 84% of our calls make up, EMS makes up 84% of our calls. So it's really important that we keep our medic units in service for those calls. So we identified some key challenges. There's going to be 6 of them. So increased call volume can overwhelm dispatchers and the 911 system. Delay in response times for true emergencies due to non-emergent calls. So really just trying to be available for those calls where we can make a difference. Limited availability of ambulances and personnel for critical cases. 2, inappropriate use of emergency services. So non-emergent or preventable calls can divert emergency resources from high priority cases. So again, being available for the CPRs, the strokes, the cardiac arrests, and just making sure that we're on point for those. Many residents could be treated in-house through alternative healthcare pathways. So urgent cares, portable x-rays, telemedicine, or even primary care follow-up. Most of these facilities do have a physician that are on board and just calling and maybe getting an antibiotic for UTI opposed to a transfer to the ER. And patients are just going to fare better in familiar environments and in their own space. So trying to keep them there is imperative. So increased healthcare cost, unnecessary ambulance transports can cause a financial burden to our patients. So if these patients are already paying an amount to live in a facility and then they're transported to the ER, and let's say that they're actually a resident of Port Orchard, they are paying those additional fees, which can add up. So trying not to add any financial burden to our patients is important to us. Hospitals experience unnecessary emergency department visits, contributing to overcrowding and extended wait times. A lot of these patients that are coming in for non-emergent things are going to sit in triage for upwards to 5 hours for something that maybe could have been taken care of in the facility. So regulatory compliance and issues, long-term care facilities are expected to manage routine medical needs and adhere to state and federal standards. So there is a WAC and RCW associated with all of these facilities and the use of 911. They do differ between skilled nursing facility, assisted, and adult family home. So just kind of learning those WACs and educating ourselves and them on what we expect The overuse of 911 services may indicate inadequate staffing, failure to follow care protocols, or liability concerns. So if they're overutilizing us, that might mean that maybe they just don't have the staffing and they're kind of subsidizing with our services. Staffing and training gaps. So undertrained staff may call 911 due to uncertainty or lack of confidence in managing routine medical concerns. So if they're undertrained, oftentimes they're going to use us as that resource rather than really relying on their skills. High staff turnover in long-term care facilities can lead to inconsistent emergency protocols and reliance on EMS for basic care. So oftentimes I've already started and I had a really good line of communication with one of the administrators, and unfortunately she's already gone. So trying to re-implement what we just did with all the staff, that's just going to be a consistent thing. Unfortunately, it's hard to keep staff for them. Staffing concerns. Unnecessary hospital transfers can expose residents to risks such as hospital-acquired infections or disruptions in continuity of care. So, if they're sitting in triage or if they go to the emergency room, just that exposure could be critical for them, for some of these patients, especially with dementia or Alzheimer's. It's really disruptive to them. So if we can keep them where they're at, we like to try to do that. Inappropriate use of 911 may prevent timely interventions for true emergencies on our community members. So again, just making sure that we're available in a timely fashion for the true emergencies. So where we've been, I attended an ESO training to develop data and collection dashboards, which was hard to tackle, to learn, but we did it, and I was able to better track and analyze what is going on in our long-term care facilities and how it relates to our calls. So conducting assessments of 911 call trends from long-term care facilities to identify non-emergent call types. So what we found is we ran, as a total Gig Harbor, 7,531 calls, and of those calls, 5,827 of them were EMS calls. And of those, 1,688 were of some sort of facility, skilled nursing, assisted living, or adult family home. And then of those, 703 of them were non-emergent, oftentimes not even transporting. So that's what we kind of collected. Where we've been. So Chief Dumas and I went to these skilled nursing facilities, and we kind of started with them first because it's easier to hold them accountable based off of the WACs and the RCW. And so we analyzed the RCW and the WAC regulations governing the nursing facilities, the assisted living, and the adult family homes to ensure the compliance and support policy-driven solutions. Best practice review. I went and did some ride-alongs with similar programs to develop a framework that ensures regulatory compliance while prioritizing collaborative solutions, aiming to reduce non-emergent calls without resorting to non-compliance fees as seen in other agencies. So other agencies are kind of just slapping a fee, and we don't really want to do that. We want to try to kind of collaborate with them and find a common solution because I think we can do it. And so that's kind of off the table for now, and we're just going to build a relationship with them and see where we can get. Strategy development created initial solution for reducing non-emergent calls, including staff education, alternative care, and pathways. So we've created pamphlets that give additional transport resources and other pathways for non-emergent calls. And we're trying to implement those in the facilities where it's appropriate. Where we're going. So pilot program to implement interventions and strategies in select facilities to measure their impact on reducing non-emergent calls. So that's where we're going to start with we've started with the skilled nursing facilities, and we're going to track and trend those to see if we're getting, a decrease in call volume. Expand staff training, help enhance training programs for long-term care facility staff to improve on-site decision-making regarding when to activate 911 and how to manage non-emergent situations effectively. So with that, there is a Dear Provider letter that was sent out from DSHS that kind of gives them guidelines of when and when not to call 911. So they should have all received it, but some may have just overlooked it. So we're just kind of implementing that as well. Data-driven follow-up, conducting ongoing evaluations with facilities to track improvements using real lifetime data, identifying success areas and need for further improvement. So we've already started kind of doing that on our skilled nursing facilities, and we have seen some good improvement and some good feedback from the crews, but it's still going to be a continued effort. Broad facility management. So expanding the outreach to assisted livings and adult family homes to implement similar intervention strategies and ensure consistency across different care settings. So again, like I said, we started with the skilled nursing facilities and we'll be moving on to the assisted and the adult family homes. And then finally, crew support, continually addressing concerns and needs from the emergency crews to ensure alignment between the long-term care facilities and first responders, improving overall system efficiency and patient care. And like I said, we're getting some good feedback from the crews, so I'm happy to hear that, but it'll be a continued effort. And thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. Any questions for Crystal specific to the long-term care program?
Oh, go ahead, Joe. I was just gonna ask, so just because it's a non-emergent call, doesn't mean it was a legitimate call. Is that correct? Or if those 700 that were deemed non-emergent, does that mean we shouldn't have gone?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we absolutely should be going to those. Some of them just could have been handled in-house. So some of those, not all 703 of them should we not have gone to, but just some of those maybe were UTI where we could have implemented antibiotics, called the doctor. Vital signs were normal. They weren't septic. And just finding that resource in home before taking them to the hospital.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I was like half.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I understood it.
Yes.
Two questions. What percentage of the calls that we went to at the facilities did we respond and then leave? Like no transport, no follow-up. Do we know that number?
Yeah, we do, but it's specific for facility. So I'd have to pull that up and show you each facility on how many we didn't transport.
Okay.
So a total call volume for each facility and then how many we did not transport.
And I don't care particularly about each facility individually. I'm just curious as an overall number, we get dispatched, we go, and then we leave without have to transport it. Again, like Joe said, I
Sure.
don't think that means that we shouldn't have gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a metric that I'm curious about.
Yeah, I can absolutely do that on a dashboard. I don't have that number right now, but that's something I would be glad to do.
And then the other question that I have is percentage wise, like the data pull that you made for these facilities, do we know like what the total number of facilities are versus like the total number of, I don't know, parcels or properties that we provide service to? Because to me, it's interesting to see like proportionally, and I don't know what the number is of
Right.
parcels. Say that the number of parcels is 10,000.
Okay.
I'm just throwing that out there. And these facilities, the number is 50, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
I just on my phone divided the number of calls. It's like 22% of the total call volume, right? So if it's 0.5% of the number of properties or parcels in the district, but it's disproportionate call volume, to me, that would be interesting to see what that
Yeah,
is.
absolutely.
Again, I don't know what the conclusion would be,
Sure,
or
sure.
even if there is one.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious what that.
That's definitely something I can look into. I haven't pulled those numbers or even really thought of that, but
Okay.
yeah, I'd be glad to do that for you.
Yeah,
Again, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying that we shouldn't be going, or because a lot of these facilities, it's older people who might well be very sick. And
Sure.
You're a medic and Scott was a medic, and these are people that may well need to be transported because they're sick patients, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I know you still are, but I'm saying when you're riding a rig as a med, right?
Yeah. I think that that's kind of what I was going to say, Commissioner Nelson. I think that my feedback would be somewhat anecdotal, but right in line with Crystal's. I think that many of those facilities are also disproportionate in their in the acuity of the patients that live there at a baseline level, right? So we do transport more people out of those than we don't, and some of them are very sick, right? And
Absolutely.
definitely need to go to the hospital. So they are a little bit more disproportionate from that standpoint too, right? Because they're disproportionately higher acuity and they're just normal baseline level. But yeah, there are definitely calls that we don't transport. I mean, just to go back a little bit to the work that we did on removing medic units from our alpha calls. When we did that, we pulled a couple years worth of data and we found that we transported about 50% of our alpha calls. So there's 50% that we left home. That doesn't necessarily mean that we didn't have an intervention at the house that allowed them to stay home. It might have been that they stayed home because we gave them some sugar or whatever the intervention might have been. But yeah, I think that's definitely something we'll continue to look at to make sure that our program's working and is, giving us the desired outcomes.
I just think there's a really maybe challenging balance between facilities that obviously have, because every entity has a motivation to not increase their own expenses. So maybe they want to the extent they can, have us be a care provider, but also understanding that there are some, these facilities exist because there's people that need a higher level of care and help, and that by its own, by nature would cause us to respond to those facilities more. And finding that balance, I think, is challenging, but to the extent that we can do it, I think it's a really good thing.
Yeah, and I think just educating the facilities on our resources, they're actually they were surprised that we just didn't have an abundance of ambulances that show up. And then just being able to find them alternative pathways when appropriate, I think is really kind of our goal in educating.
They're doing a great job, and just starting this, but I like their approach that we're starting with the carrot first. We have some sticks. Some people have charged. Some people, we can file a complaint with the state, and so, but I really like the education and the carrot approach first to try to reduce these calls. And we're looking out for our citizens because those citizens are paying certain levels for that care. And some are very expensive, and they're getting charged that amount, but then calling us instead of taking care of it at the level that they're charging already. So there's lots of it's not an easy fix, but Crystal's doing a great job, and Chief Dumas is, and we're just gonna, on both of these programs are not just changing our run cards, but this one extends. We have 3 medic units. If we weren't doing either one of these, we'd need a 4th medic right now. And so this just gives us a little bit more time. It saves us and taxpayers money to not bring on a 4th medic unit until it's actually time. So these are the type of things that we really, really need to focus on and really make a big difference to us and our service delivery.
Thanks, Crystal. Crystal is the perfect person for the job. She's doing an excellent work. Okay. So I wanted to hit a couple things on the 2025 work plan. Chief, you want me to keep going? Right. Okay. That we're working on for 2025. And some of these projects, please understand that they're not going to be completed in 2025. They're just on this work plan to get us going in that direction, because some of them are a couple that will take multiple years or operational periods to get through this. So we're going to be working on a staffing analysis later this year. And so Chief Oldenburg and Crystal and I are going to be working on a staffing analysis to identify kind of what the current version of our fill ratio is, if that's a familiar term to some of the board that's been here for a while. Essentially, how many people does it take to add another position on the street, right? So if we wanted to put another 4th transport unit in service or another engine company that's X number of positions, how many people based on our leave usage, based on our experience with varying levels of the training we do and the commitment to the community. What does it take to get that on the street? And so it's time to update that, and that's going to help us establish kind of longer range plans and expectations. So we're going to be working on that later this year. Continued development of staffing plans during construction closures. So I would couch this in the be nimble category. We don't necessarily know exactly when we're going to close these buildings, namely 51, but we have to be ready to kind of pivot and be ready to go when we do. So we're working on those plans. 2025 promotional process is coming up in the fall, but the planning is well underway. Complete technical rescue team evaluation post PSORT. So that got a pretty good chunk of that work done in 2024, and we're going to continue that in 2025. Started a ladder truck evaluation process. The first question the committee is asking is there a gap in the community that we feel like a ladder truck could fill? And then we'll move on to, if the answer is yes, then what might that apparatus look like? We'll continue our EMS level of service analysis. So that's some of what Crystal and Chief Dumas are working on. We might look at further opportunities for response package updates and drop into maybe some of the Bravo level responses that we transport a lower percentage of. And we mentioned the long-term care facility program. OTEP plan rewrite, that's required every 5 years. So DC Dumas is leading us through our ongoing training and education plan as it pertains to EMS. Continue to enhance billing and charting QI and QA. Bolster and develop EMS instructor core. So we would like to host our own EMT course here at some point, either by ourselves or in collaboration with other agencies, but that requires certain certifications and qualifications. Spec, build, train, and implement Type 1 and Type 3 fire engines, transport units, and a tender and a battalion vehicle. So the board, by support financially, and then DC Peterson has worked really hard on getting us a lot of new apparatus, which is awesome. And it takes time and energy and effort to get those onboarded and people trained on them and get them in service. So we'll be spending a pretty good chunk of Q4, I think, on a lot of those things. Onboard entry-level new hires, that's ongoing. We do have 3 entry-level firefighters in the academy at Tacoma Fire. Enhance ongoing training roadmaps for driver operator, training cadre, lieutenant, battalion, division chief, and et cetera. This is something that's super important to me, and this is going to be a multi-year project, I think, for the operations division, but creating roadmaps for people as they progress in the organization. You know, if you are someone who wants to get into instructing, what's the pathway to do that? How do we make sure that we support you in doing that? If you want to be a driver operator or company officer, what's the organization expect of those people, and how can we help create a roadmap for those people to know where to go and the pathway to go? So we'll be working on that. A huge one here for the training division, develop business and operational plans for the training campus. We expect that the campus is going to be completed sometime in the middle of 2026, and we want to be able to operate and function at a very high level, but that requires an operational plan that we don't have right now because we don't have a training facility. And so DC Corrigan is working really hard on that, doing some traveling and talking to local neighbors and partners that have training facilities on how we want to operate and use the facility and the campus. And we're really seeing it as a whole campus, not just necessarily the tower, the support building, but it really is the entire campus and how we're going to utilize it. Acquired structure training. So we do have 3 properties up in the Station 56 area by Peninsula High School that's on property owned by the school district that they were working on agreements to be able to do some acquired structure training in single family residences on that piece of property that's in the, I suppose, on the southeast of 144th Street, adjacent to Peninsula High School. Develop the instructor cadre in preparation for the training center, and then we expect that we'll be opening the training support building sometime this year, as long as JJ unlocks the gate. All right, that's kind of a high level things that we're working on, and I'd be happy to stand for questions if you have any.
All right,
Thank you.
Chief Oldenburg.
All right, let me get my stuff loaded right here and we'll be off to the races. All right, commissioners, you should have a packet in front of you that identifies the 2024 project and priority list closeout for finance and admin. We'll start with the IT consortium migration. We've talked about this a lot. You're very familiar with it. It's one line on this page, but it took almost the entire year and a lot of very, very focused effort. I'm happy to say that we have moved out of the IT consortium. Obviously, you're aware of that. We are now cloud-based and moved to Microsoft 365. So you'll see this again moving forward. We still have pieces of this to finalize, and to stabilize it. But in its entirety, for the most part, we have completed that as a priority project last year, and we're very pleased with that. Also last year, we completed a smaller project. It's a station alerting. That had to do with some of the levels of our station alerting tones and the type of tone. We're going to continue to look at that in the future, but that's part of the wellness and well-being program, with our employees long-term to make sure that we're not impacting them over the entirety of their career. So we'll continue to look into ways of alerting our employees and station notifications as we move forward. You're also very aware last year of the flood that occurred, and we're still working on that here. Some of these things that are in 2024, you'll see have continued into 2025, but it was a priority last year. I am happy to report that if you walk down to the end of the building, we have put in insulation, we have put up sheetrock, we are doing the taping and texturing, we'll be painting soon. We will be out of our temporary location by the last day of April, because we've had other businesses walk through and they're signing the lease. So we will be out in one way or another, one way, shape, or form. We will not be in that building. So it may look a little different here, but I have JJ's very strong commitment that he's doing everything he can to get us into this building, and it's looking good today. So we're still hopeful of that, for that moving forward. Let's see here. Well, if I can get the slides to progress. Go manual. Policy and procedure update. You've heard me talk about this previously as well. This is a monumental task for the district, and this is kind of an evaluation, modernization, and that includes format, content, and all of that kind of across our jurisdiction. We have a lot of policies and a lot of procedures, and a lot of them have been written over a number of years that haven't deleted the previous ones or taken into concern or consideration the changes. And so we have things that are stacked on top of one another. So Janelle has graciously accepted the challenge of updating our policies and procedures for the organization. In coordination with Leslie. That did start in 2024. Again, this is another project that you'll see moving into 2025. Many of these things take multiple years to accomplish. Situational awareness, that primarily talks about our Intera software. We have a software here that we use for to kind of track what's going on in the district, our notification of the call type, where it's at. It's GIS based. We use that here. Travis and I are familiar with utilizing this in Boise, and so we will continue to try to put pre-plans in there to update that so we can use our AVL, so our vehicle location and GPS locations of our vehicles, so we can see when our vehicles are moving around and where they're at in the jurisdiction. So we anticipate continued progress with that as well. Hold on to your assets. That's just kind of the catchphrase that we had for kind of a number of things we're doing in the logistics division. We used to have, and still do, have stuff spread throughout the jurisdiction, kind of in the different locations. We store things in certain places. We used to track things in kind of a number of different ways. So here, this again is a concerted effort to figure out what type of logistics products that we have in the jurisdiction, where they're located, and how we track and manage those assets kind of holistically. So Steve has done a great job. Steve Peterson in the logistics division. This again is another topic that we're working on this year, but it encompasses all of that. What do we have? Where is it at? Where is it at? What do we need? How do we track it? And how do we make sure that we're being efficient in our inventory and our management of our assets? 2025 work plan. 2025 work plan was designed a little bit differently than 2024. We have a little bit more detail listed for us. I've grouped a number of things here for you. I'm not going to go through bullet by bullet. Like I said, a number of these things have rolled over, but I will touch on some things that are new. Station 50 repair and update, I already gave you a briefing on that. That's still underway. We're shooting for April 30th, and we have our fingers crossed. Tyler Technologies, we started this. It's continuing in 2025. We started it, believe it or not, at the end of 2023 and actually started with the consultant in early 2024. We've gone through 3 primary consultants with Tyler Technologies. We are very pleased with our current consultant. We are behind schedule, but we have negotiated an entire new timeline and implementation schedule for all of the software. Crystal has good feedback from working with the consultant for our core financial configuration. Katrina and Janelle have spent a significant amount of time over the last few weeks working with the consultant, and they are actually have high praise for the same person as well. And we have readjusted our timeline and implementation to coincide with going live with payroll the last week of May, and then and the first week of June, the last week of April, last week of June, and the first payroll in July. And then Janelle is going to do the primary HR configuration in that time. So we're looking at the middle to end of July to be fully configured, but the person we're working with now, we have high confidence that that software will ultimately meet our needs, and we're very, very pleased at this point in time. Integration of logistics with the finance and administration team. I'd like to report that we welcome Steve Peterson and the logistics team and their entire division to fall under the umbrella of finance and administration in February. Steve and I have had the opportunity to meet, and so we are now moving forward with that. We're able to reduce one assistant chief here in the fire department, and that provided bandwidth for us to hire some of the other FTEs that you've seen that we've hired across the organization. And so Steve and I are having a good time working together, and we're going to be able to co-implement and manage some of these things that I talked about already. The review, revise, and update the format of our documents. I talked about that. That falls in line with the policy and procedure updates. It just goes a little bit farther that as we move forward with our new softwares and our new technology, we would like to make electronic versions of the majority of files and documents that we use, to include forms and signatures and approvals and workflows inside the organization. We would like to automate that as much as possible and use electronic files and forms for that. To follow along in lines with our thematic goal of finish what we started, we have realized that it's very, very important to catch the rest of the employees up on the new technology and advances that we have made in the Microsoft environment and some other areas as well. We started that training today. Was the first 1.5-hour class from our information technology group that are meeting with the stations at the station level to talk about how to use Microsoft, how to use Outlook, how to use SharePoint, how to use File Explorer, how to do these things that those of us who are in the administrative environment caught on quickly and used it daily. Maybe the stations have not had the opportunity to use those softwares like we have. So again, finish what we started. We're slowing down, we're going back, and we're going to help assist our employees be successful in utilizing the new tools that we implemented last year. Bond rating and sale. This is primarily something that JJ, Crystal, and myself are monitoring. As we move forward and the timelines shift and projects get either delayed or implemented and we're moving forward, we have to watch the money on the back end, right? So we didn't sell all of our bonds. We sold a portion of our bonds, and we have to manage the capital projects as they move forward and make sure that we have money available, along with the timelines of when we sell bonds, when we can sell bonds, and when we receive the revenue. So the three of us will be spending some more time, focused time in 2025 in discussions and making sure that our timeline for bond sale and the generation of that revenue coincides with when we need it to accomplish the capital project. Teams phone system, Travis worked really hard to migrate us off of the Mitel phone system, and we did complete that and have implemented our entire organization to include all of our fixed facilities now use Teams phones. And I did get an email this afternoon that notified me that Mitel filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy today. So we just made it. So yeah, that worked out well for us, and we're having good feedback from the organization as well. I already talked about Intera and the pre-plans, but this is something that we expect to enhance this software as we move into 2025. We do anticipate to either reevaluate or update our external website. It's kind of, I don't want to say analog, but it's an older technology. Doesn't necessarily integrate with some of our new Microsoft products and things like that. So we just may be bringing that into in-house or create our own, or at least update it. The radio over IP project, that will not impact everybody in the organization, but what that will do for us in the organization is a certain level of command officers from the fire chief down through probably the battalion chiefs will have the ability to talk and use an iPhone or a actual cell phone to talk on our primary radio channels. It's not anything new. It's been around for a long time. There's a number of third service apps out there that you can use. But what this will do for us, we can take handheld radios like myself would not have to carry around an $8,000 or $7,000 handheld radio. I can carry my iPhone that I carry every day. And if I need to talk on one of our primary radio channels, I can talk on the 700 megahertz system through the broadband and then a gateway back, software gateway back at the dispatch center. There's hundreds and hundreds of those applications or those types of technologies deployed in Pierce County. It's been around for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years from what I've been told. So what that'll do is free up some of that, those very expensive assets for us to have as spares or replacement radios or things like that, that just extends the life of our current technology, because those radios are very, very expensive, and they are needed for our firefighters, not so much needed for people like myself if I don't go in the IDLH environment or the fire environment. Medical integration, we heard a little bit about this earlier. This is a project that we're doing on the logistics side, primarily interacting with the EMS division to kind of streamline how we order medical supplies. So it used to be the EMS division ordered all the medical supplies, and then our logistics division ordered everything else. Those two divisions are now talking and coming up with ways to streamline that and make that a little bit more efficient there. Let's see, procurement and contracting, streamlining those processes. It's the exact same thing or very similar thing. We're going through not only education and training here with our logistics staff as well as our finance staff on procurement and contracting, but we think there are some efficiencies that can be found in those areas within the organization as far as standardization, and that goes into the next part with uniforms and PPE updates and things like that. We think there is opportunity for us to leverage standardization across the organization, look at what we're doing in the area of logistics and resources, and apply some energy there to find some efficiencies. And again, the last point, we are sending some of our employees across the organization, from fleet to procurement employees that are in the logistics division that do a lot of purchasing, to advanced training for that. And then our logistics division is spending a lot of time, especially our facilities people and our IT people, supporting the projects as they come in. As we change Station 57 and we remodel, we have to put new technology in there. We're putting all new gear, routers and hardware, laptops, those types of things. We're continually having to follow closely behind the completion or during the completion phase of those projects to integrate all of our logistics stuff as well. And then there's another project that we're working on. We'll probably be coming to potentially this board down the road, but we need to present to the command staff first. Chief Peterson has done a good job of This is kind of phase 2 of that hold on to your asset stuff of what are the things that we have as far as supplies and equipment, where are they located and what do we need for the future. He's doing a strategic evaluation across the jurisdiction of the facilities that we have available without going forward and building new facilities or renting things like that. We just want to be very diligent as we move through the bond projects. We're finding that things are expensive. And one of the last projects we had on the bond list to accomplish, if we had money available, was building or renting or buying a logistics facility. We are prepared to walk through that now and take a look at it in the anticipation that maybe those funds won't be available depending on the cost increases and the impacts and the priorities we have in the organization. So we will do an evaluation now of what we need and see if there's anything that we can do now to shore that up and potentially defer the need for that in the future if that's not an option for us. I already talked about this: asset management, supply tracking, fleet procurement. We've done a real good job of shoring up our logistics fleet and our capital fleet. All of these things, most of these things will be arriving this year. So it's a big heavy lift for our logistics division. We're going to receive all of this equipment and then we'll have to upfit it. And then, like Nick said, we're going to have to train everybody and then roll it out into use on the line. That is what I have for the 2024 closeout and 25 work plan. I will stand for questions or comments.
First of all, thank you. I mean, this is just unbelievable, but I have to say, you wouldn't have a hard time showing 5 things that you have done during the week. So this is totally amazing. I mean, it's totally amazing. It's,
Well, thank you,
I
Commissioner.
can't believe what you guys have put into this. So Chief,
Yeah,
like you said, you surrounded yourself with good people and it's very much showing.
thank you.
Did you guys settle on one of the thousands of apps that does the radio stuff?
I think because Dispatch Center already has the ISSI configuration on the background and there's 600 or 700 users, we're just going to go with ESChat.
We had used ESChat from our previous work too, and that's what you have too, right? Yep. Chief Booth. While he's getting ready, Commissioner, I might have trouble getting 5 things, but I'll just count some of theirs. They're extras on mine.
Yeah, who wants to try to follow that? Jeez. I apologize for not having a handout for you this evening. I actually wasn't sure I was going to make it. I was in Chelan earlier today at a summit for the State Fire Marshal's Office. And so I will get a virtual copy of this to your email before the end of the meeting. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about have already been covered by some of our other folks. But, and again, this is not an exhaustive list of what's happening within fire prevention, health and safety, and emergency preparedness, but simply kind of a high level, some of the highlights for 2024. Community emergency preparedness is an area that when I first took this role, I really didn't anticipate spending a lot of time on. And it's just turned out to be just the opposite. So you've already heard that we've engaged in the Wildfire Ready Neighbors to try to address the WUI threat within our jurisdiction. Chief Doan spoke. We did just under 100 inspections last year. We have funding to do another 100 this year. And what we're being told by DNR and Pierce County Conservation District is there's more and more money. If we have interest, they'll support us. And so we're going to continue to just put the hammer down on that and do as many of those as we can. A lot of what I do is ongoing coordination with the community stakeholders, whether it be our NGOs, CERT, FICRA, EPPC, Parrot, and Pepsi, or with our formal stakeholders, DEM, the city, Penlight, and the school district primarily. What we've decided to do moving forward, you guys heard me talk about this last year, that we've the MAC did away with itself when the tree hit the building and it flooded. But we're going to pivot in the way that we do emergency preparedness and unified command, focusing on what we believe will serve all of the entities better than what had been done in the past, and then really just provide a more resilient approach to emergency preparedness and emergency management for the community themselves. So that was something that happened last year. You'll see it again on my 25 list. As you know, we are moving into year 3 of the L&I fire program. What that program has helped me do is identify safety improvement plans for both carcinogens and musculoskeletal injury. I just met with a representative from L&I a week or two ago, and I'm advocating for inclusion of a cardiac-related illness, a tool to evaluate the risk, and then advocating for implementing measures to help address the cardiac-related illnesses that we also face that are currently not being addressed right now through L&I in a formal way. Just a brief overview, the grant awards that we've received in 2023, we got an extractor and dryer. That's for the training center that is in storage at Station 54. We also tried out some PFAS-free hoods. That was kind of a dud, but that's okay. They're still in distribution, and folks can use them if they want. And then we just, for 2024, got another extractor and dryer, and that's installed and in service at Station 53. Fire prevention, some of the highlights. We moved to virtual burn permits as of 1/1 of 2025. It's somewhat amazing how much time that took Melissa on a daily, if not weekly basis to manage our ability to allow our residents to burn. And that's really what it is. If we allow burning, then we have to manage it. And so she was able to, through some of the new software that we have, to develop an online platform. And it has been, as I'm told, working flawlessly to date. As you may or may not know, water supply and fire hydrants is a huge deal out here. We have 33, if I remember correctly, different water purveyors. Really, Chief Westcott has been focusing on trying to get the water purveyors to step up and manage their systems, right? Whether it be maintenance or reporting or flow testing. And to date, he's had good results within the city of Gig Harbor and mixed results outside of the city. And so we're going to continue to look into that in the future. But we definitely saw some progress in 2024. Community risk reduction. That is where I was at the last couple of days, representing our organization at the state level to talk about the future of community risk reduction within Washington State. For us, we've identified the Wildfire Ready Neighbors program as an area that we want to lean into. We're not going to abandon traditional fire prevention measures and offerings. Our community expects them. They have been shown through national research to really be a great deal. We're just trying to figure out how to meld data-informed decision-making with traditional fire prevention and what that looks like. So we're continuing to work on that. For health and wellness and then safety, kind of bundled all these together. You already heard Chief Oldenburg speak to station alerting. We were able to address what I consider to be phase 1, where we're able to control the volume and the startling nature of our tones. There's lots of evidence-based research that shows the damaging effects that has on our physical health, if not mental health. Phase 2 has been deferred to Chief Langlow. That's something that actually needs to happen at the county level. And so he's leaning into that. And I'm hearing good feedback that he thinks he's going to be able to make some significant change in not necessarily the volume of the tones, but what they sound like. Some of them are surprisingly startling just because of the noise that they create. And they don't have to be like that. Under kind of safety and PFAS together, the L&I grant program I already talked about. We implemented a decontamination procedure and equipment and really cleaned up the way that we were taking care of our soiled PPE. There's a lot of exposure that happens off the fire ground that we weren't doing a very good job of mitigating. And so that is definitely improved. Accident prevention program is what state calls safety policies. So like the policies in every other area of our organization, our safety policies need some love. And so I'm going to continue to work on that. And my intention is to get that updated before the end of 2025. A little foreshadowing there. And we did just double the size of our peer fitness team. Historically, organizationally, we've been very reactive with our peer fitness trainers. We're trying to be more proactive in the way that we do programming, the way that we support our members. And it became abundantly clear that there was no way we were going to do that with 3 PFTs. So now we're up to 7. We just added 3 more at the turn of the calendar, and we're getting them through their initial training and looking forward to fitness assessments in May and June of this year, and expanding the way that we deliver that information, as well as direct one-on-one interactions. Moving into 2025, you've heard me speak of the Grail-Galleri cancer blood test. We had that event on the 4th, last Tuesday. 86 members were drawn on that date. And I don't have a final number yet, because in a couple of weeks, I'm going to get what amounts to vouchers. And then anyone who couldn't make that will be able to go to a local lab and get that drawn. So I don't have a final number yet on how many members took advantage of that opportunity. But we were initially a little concerned leading into the day with the number of people that scheduled, but by the end of the day, everyone was pretty excited about the volume that we were able to see. I entered into the agreement for the L&I fire program again, year 3. It's much of the same, if I'm being honest, but there are definitely some areas that I can continue to lean into and make improvements. I already talked about the accident prevention program. Still need to get that across the finish line. Regarding community risk reduction, there's 2 key hazards that we've addressed, or we've recognized rather. One is the potential for a significant conflagration and the wildland-urban interface. And so wildfire-ready neighbors is the way that we're going to continue to lean into that. And then working alongside DEM to focus on evacuation and helping our citizens understand what they need to do in the event of a large-scale incident. We've also, I'm sure this is no surprise to you, about 25% of our EMS call volume is falls. And so that is a surprisingly complicated issue. You'd think it is super straightforward, and it's not. And so what we would like to do before the end of the calendar year, or moving into 2026, is to work alongside EMS and try to come up with kind of a hybrid between fire prevention and EMS to try to move the needle on improving our older, it's generally our older folks, their quality of life, and to help them identify ways to mitigate falls. The mortality of a ground level fall for an elderly person is surprisingly high. And so it is an actual big issue. We just need to come up with a way to creatively address the problem. In fire prevention, we're going to call this a rebuilding year. I think that's one of your sports terms. We have several employees that need to be replaced. We have a second interview for tomorrow for public educator. We have 4 candidates coming back from our initial interviews that we're really excited about. And so we are really excited to get that person on board. Lena White on modified duty has been doing a great job of filling that gap. But we're excited to get a permanent educator back in that role. As you know, Melissa promoted into the IT division. And so right now we are essentially without an administrative assistant. She's still supporting me, but I'm trying to be very sensitive to the fact that she's got a ton on her plate. So we're excited to get that process going. We have about 60 applications, and we've identified probably a third of that we'd like to bring in for an interview. And so we're hoping to get that started in the later part of March, first part of April. And then Jake Coverdale has indicated his interest in returning to the line at the end of the calendar year. And so we need to identify a replacement for him, get them trained so that that person is up and running and can continue that contractual obligation with the city, in addition to continuing our traditional fire prevention programming. In emergency preparedness, this is the update year for hazard mitigation plan. This started mid last year, and it is due by November 1 of this coming year. And so I am in that process, have been attending monthly meetings with DEM, along with other stakeholders within the community. And we are well on our way to having that plan updated. The Unified Command ICS training, I already spoke about that briefly. DEM will be leading the charge on that. And so we will be supporting DEM as they roll out that training to all of our community stakeholders. Emergency supplies, this is an ongoing project. It feels like it's never done to replace and or restock the supplies that we have. And just keep in mind, that's for our responders, right? And Chief Doan has acknowledged that if we expect our responders to come to work, it's more than likely that their families will come with them. So we need to be able to care for those folks and provide for them if we're going to continue to serve our community. And then, like I alluded to, I spent a lot of my time as a community liaison between all the different groups, and there's all kinds of initials everywhere. But I really, anecdotally, I've really seen tremendous fruit from that labor of connecting folks. A lot of what Perry and Travis were able to lean into with the school district, and now Penn Light with their connectivity issues, the communication stuff, that was born out of a meeting that I was at, and just listening to the concerns of those folks and just making those connections. And so that's just one example of many of how being present and meeting with our community stakeholders has really improved the resilience of our community. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to share.
Reading stuff online, people talking about their insurance and fire district, and stuff happening. And of course, we went through the WPR and things that were there. But one of the questions that came up was about wildfire. And, you know, I never thought myself that much about it here, but then you start seeing Brooklyn, Long Island, Myrtle Beach, little places having it. You got thinking, wow, you know, those aren't places you normally expect those things. Just how dangerous is, I guess, of a wildfire situation for our district?
Well, that is quite a question.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I think if we get the right set of circumstances, and I think that's the key. The key is the right set of circumstances. And there's people in this room that are way more knowledgeable on how to answer that, but I'll take a shot at it. It's a period of continued drying of the fuels. It is largely based on weather. And when I say weather, I mean wind primarily. I think we're at a disadvantage on this side of the mountains because it just doesn't happen very often, right? And so I think where we are looking to start to address this in our community is to educate our citizens about the reality that yes, a wildfire, a significant wildfire is a reality in our community. And I think that's where we need to start, is we need to help people understand that this does matter and that it would be time well spent to do some of the wildfire ready neighbor mitigations for their homes. It would be time well spent to know more than one way to get to and from your home. Like it's almost arguably very simple things, but it's things that a lot of people don't think about because it doesn't feel like it's a problem that we need to worry about. Everything's green, there's lots of trees, there's never been a significant wildfire here, right? So that's I think where we need to start, is helping people understand that there is the potential for a very significant event. And if we can get people to buy in to the idea that it matters, then I think the next step is really easy. I think the hardest thing we need to do is get them to buy in. So that's I think where we're going to start.
okay. Thank you.
A quick question. A couple of years ago, I heard a lot of stuff about a peer-to-peer after event. Like, I can't remember the name of the program.
We call, you mean the peer support team?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that still
Yes.
very active?
Very much so.
Okay,
And
thank
actually, the one thing that I've been able to do specifically that's different than just taking care of inquiries and making connections with providers and all those other things is I've identified Alex Langlow as a shift level team leader. And that serves two purposes. Number one, I'm removed from the shift. And as much as I would love to think that everyone can trust me and won't even bat an eye to come talk to me, that's just not real anymore. And I also need to identify someone for some succession planning. And so Alex has a very fresh perspective. As you may or may not know, he was very involved in the Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation. He's got some really cool ideas, and we're going to work together over this year into the first part of next year of trying to implement some of those. But yes, the peer support team does still exist. If anything, I'm retiring more people. That's just been a problem since the very beginning. So I think something that Janelle and I have been talking about is trying to add some more frontline firefighters, because I got a lot of officers. I got a lot of people at my level on the team. We need more, the rank and file. And so we're going to look to recruit again, more than likely before summer. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. JJ's gonna bring it home with the bond.
All right, I'll bring it home for you. So capital bond, kind of review of 24. A lot of things we've, updated you on throughout the year. This one will include some pictures if you haven't had the opportunity to get out and look at some stuff. I know commissioners were looking out the window earlier in the meeting. Yeah, there's some building going on outside on the training campus. So good things are happening. So for 24, the projects listed were 53 and 57, and we'll go through each one individually. The training campus, the Station 51 design and permitting, and then it got thrown in there, the Station 50 repairs and improvements. So we'll start with 53 and 57. A little bit of history in 2012 when we received a grant to redo both of those stations. They were actually put out as two different bids. That actually caused me some problems in this process because the stations, as much as they're the same, they're different. So dealing with those issues was a process, and we overcame it, and our stations are very much back to being the same and the same systems in the same places with all of the same things. It went out to bid in January of 24. We had 9 bids that were submitted, and BFC Construction from University Place was the low bid at $2,203,000. Currently 53 is open and staffed, and it has been, and 57, I just actually checked, and all of our alarm panel issues cleared, the fires cleared, and now we're just waiting for the building final. And then after building final, we'll get occupancy. So it's well on its way. It's just waiting for all those things to process. Just a couple of pictures. To the left side, the left picture and the left side of the picture next to the out bay is kind of what got added. And you'll see the picture of those things that are there. It's bunker gear storage, some decon, and some storage areas. We cleaned up the out bay. It's interesting, just a little bit of history in the out bay. These stations were both built by volunteers. You're able to see that in the concrete floor because there is multiple different pours in the floors. And you can see from the types of concrete and the type of aggregate, and it's actually kind of an interesting historical perspective on it. So as you see here, we have 20 gear lockers in there. That coincides with the 5 dorm rooms that are there, which coincides with the 20 food lockers. So it just, everything kind of lined up for the 4 shifts with the potential for 5 out there. The original plans only had 4 bedrooms. When I took it over, I actually added a 5th and did some changing because it gives us the ability to put 2 full companies, an engine company and a medic unit staffed at the station, not just 4, which is kind of an odd number. With the 5, I think it just gives us more opportunity to do more things in the future. As Chief Booth said, the picture on the right is actually the gear dryer and the extractor. So as we touch each building throughout the bond process. A big part of what we're trying to do and what Scott's trying to do is cancer prevention. These two things are big, important things to do that, to clean our gear after we come back from, honestly, any type of alarm, not just a fire, but we can get pretty dirty and gross from a medical call as well. Previously, before these, we, for a number of years, we had one extractor. We would have a structure fire, and you would have 20 sets of gear trying to run through one bunker gear extractor. We have two small ones at 2 and 6. These are small, but you can still put 3 shells or 3 sets of shells or 3 sets of liners in them. And then the gear dryer is big enough to dry everything, because that's what takes the length of time is drying. Picture on the left is just the dorm room. We added, we took what was there as half of the PT room and made it a dorm room. And then the picture on the right, we actually expanded out the backside of the PT room, and it's kind of in an L. Obviously, we have put equipment in there, and we're still working on moving some things around to better accommodate the use in that PT room. 57, I'm not going to go into it. It's the same station now. As I said earlier, there's nothing in it right now. We're just waiting for the final clean, and then logistics will start moving stuff in there and outfitting that station as well. So it'll be just like 53 in essence. Or what? 5 bedrooms. It's the exact same building. Questions about that project? We've kind of had that one for the last year, hoping to close it out faster than we did, but we ran into some issues, and we're there now. The training campus. Commissioner Sudich can attest to this. This has been almost 20 years in the planning phases early on, moving through a conditional use permit that we had a design, we put on hold, and we revived it through with the bond. So as much as Commissioner Sudich wants this thing done, I want to see it done too. This will be a state-of-the-art facility for not only our folks, but the ability to share that campus and train with other departments is such a huge, valuable tool. Our construction firm, Pease Construction, when we awarded the bid, Chief Doan talked to them, I talked to them and said, this is a unique opportunity. These aren't built every day. When we refer to other towers that are close to this, we refer to Boise and to a degree Olympia Fire. And after that, there's not a whole lot in the Northwest. So we came back after the bond passed. We did refresh some permitting issues. We brought it back to life, started the planning phase. We finally went to bid. Even after all that pre-work was done, we went to bid in July of 24. 7 contractors bid it. Pease Construction is the low bid at $14,549,250. With all of these low bid numbers, just for you commissioners and anyone out there listening, that is a straight raw number. That does not include sales tax or any of the extras that are on it. So if you look at the 14.5, add 10% sales tax to that, and then add $1 million in burn props that are also going into the building. It's an expensive building, but it's going to be here for a very, very long time. Construction began in September of 24. Support building is anticipated completion of this year. Notice I didn't put a month. I have it on a schedule, but I won't say the month. And then the tower is in 26 because same thing. It's always dependent on things. We're hoping for May or June in that for both of these a year apart. So some pictures. These are just yesterday. And between yesterday and today, I can tell differences from standing up here. You may not be able to. Picture on the right is of the support building, kind of the admin side. What you're looking at is 4 offices with no decking on it. If you look down there now, it's getting dark, but they've started putting the decking on floor 2. And by next week, you will see all the walls up on floor 2. Picture on the right is of the app bay. The steel and the kind of the superstructure is up, and they will bring the crane back and start flying those beams, trusses, all those things are coming. So it'll move along quickly. These two pictures are actually last week. They poured the remaining walls on the basement level. So the basement level is all poured concrete wall because it's structural. So altogether, we're over 700 yards of concrete just in the base and the first floor walls. They are currently in the process of stripping those, and they'll start working on putting the deck on. For the first floor goes deck, CMU walls, concrete in the, and then just we start working our way up to 5 floors. So long process there, but they're doing great. Questions at all on the training campus? Yes, sir.
Do we have somebody representing the district? I know some of the facilities we visited, some of their different districts, complaints where they had to tear up the floor because of drains or what have you after the fact. And if I remember right, I probably asked this question 2 or 3 times. As I recall, we've got somebody looking over their shoulder as that's being done.
Besides me, yeah, RFM, we're lucky in the fact that our RFMs, I'll say subcontractors, they're not. It's the structural engineer, the mechanical engineer. All those people are here. Our structural engineer is here usually every 2 weeks. She's actually flying up tonight from San Diego. She lives in San Diego. But she'll be here for a walkthrough tomorrow because they're stripping concrete. So anytime there's a major movement like that, she's here taking pictures, looking. The drains are a very good point, Chief, or Commissioner Sudich. The drains took a long time because once we pour those, they're kind of there and you're tearing out the middle of the out bay. The drains, P's Construction did not let the plumber take care of those because that's a plumbing issue. P's actually set them in place and poured the concrete around them and then let the plumber come finish that because they want them right. And we told them those experiences. So they did their very best and had their folks working on that specific topic. I am more than pleased with them. They are ahead of the game. They are planning. They're looking at things months and months down the road. All the lumber that's currently being used on the support building, they actually ordered all that in 24 because they saw what was coming. So it was on site and delivered ahead of time. So they're on the ball.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, hot topic. Station 51. In 2024, we worked through the design and permitting process, or we are working through it still. Just a brief review. We had 4 representatives from the shifts go out and look at multiple other buildings, some new, some still under construction, some that were already done. The station is built to accommodate 11 personnel total. It'll be built on the existing site, which as we work through the contract, that's a tear down and total clearing of the site, pulling all utilities back to the streets or their origination point, and then bringing everything back in. And it'll be a 2-story building because the site is narrow. We don't have the width of some of like a 58 or a 59 where we have a wide property. It's relatively narrow. Everything has been submitted to the city of Gig Harbor and been accepted. I have now paid the invoice for with the city for plan review, so they have everything. There are a few things that we put in on a delayed submittal, and that was through working with the city on that, knowing that we had some issues with some things. Our next big kind of meeting is our conditional use hearing, which is April 1st. In our meeting last week with the city, they said, well, we'll shoot for a goal of April 1st, and I will applaud Chief Doan saying it's not a goal. We will make April 1st happen. My folks will, and so can you meet that goal? And Chief Doan made sure that they agreed to that. Since last week, I have received acceptance and things of quite a few items from the city. We have a whole bunch of comments we're working through. And late last week, I did receive everything. that we are on the agenda for April 1st, and I am having a printed sign that I have to post in front of 51. So it's happening. We are moving forward. So we have had some slowdowns. We have worked through those with the city, and I think we have a plan moving forward. And to the city's credit, they understand that there are some issues and some things that they need to change, and they have told us that they are working on those. It just so happens that we're stuck with some of those old rules. So what you see in front of you is not the final design. This is kind of the pretty picture that that we had done. It's more of the rendering. Some of those arches have went away, and some of the roof and the half-story light above. Those were removed after the design review, which I think we've talked about in length. But the better thing that we have, and it's in your packet, it's harder to read because it's on an 8.5 by 11. But we have kind of the progression of dates and times and as the building has been submitted and where we are today. So at the second design review committee meeting, Chief Doan very much got the answer from them that they were recommendations and not requirements. So it came out of the meeting that they accepted, they had approved us on the design. At our meeting with the city a week later, we gave this to the city, and the city gave us a verbal that the design on the very right side met all the requests for that, and it moved forward. So we have a lot of movement moving forward, and we have a design that we can go forth and finish with them. Questions for the 51 process? I hope to have everything back, once again, dependent on the city, any issues we have moving forward. Hopefully we will have everything back in June. We are already starting to prepare documents to go to bid and the manual that goes along with the bidding process, so that once we get permits, we are ready to go. And just like all the other projects, once we advertise and go out to bid, it's advertised 2 weeks in a row. There's usually a week for a site visit, and then a week later we are accepting bids and opening them. And that will just depend on where it falls for the next commissioners meeting and who is the winning bidder, and if we need to do a lot of research on the company or if it's a known commodity that is the low bidder that we move forward. I am hoping to politely kick the crews out of 51 as much as they are ready to be kicked out of 51 and get this process going. I am ready for it. Logistics and operations, we are talking weekly, if not longer, or more often, about that process, and everyone is ready to get this thing going, including me. So, questions about 51? All right. Our last one that we're working on, some of these things have been said earlier. Station 50, we had the tree fall in 23, flooded the admin side. We all know we're in temporary headquarters. Same thing is people in temporary headquarters are ready to come home. So we had to develop a scope and the repair. While we were at it, we did some, we put in some improvements that we honestly needed to do a long time ago. It went out to bid in November of 24, and once again, Pease Construction was the low bid. We're looking for completion April of 25, right, Chief Oldenburg? Yep, perfect. We did have a few slowdowns. We had some carpet issues and that. We've got that. Actually, the last thing to come in for us is carpet, of all things. So I will be working a schedule with Pease Construction and talking to logistics. I'll do some discussion in command staff. We can direct where they start putting carpet down because the entire site is getting carpet. So we'll work through that. And as carpet goes down in those areas, my plan would be to start moving as soon as we can, because not only do we need to move out of the temporary headquarters, but we need to get the office equipment that we have rented out of those spaces as well. So it is going to be a busy week and a half, if not longer, to make all those things happen. So, but we do have great progress. Just some pictures. Sheetrock, as it was mentioned earlier, sheetrock's up. Tape is everything is done, so they'll be sanding tomorrow. So it'll be a dusty mess over there. But they've done a great job of cleaning up behind themselves as well. Ps, both on the drill ground and up here, have done a great job of that. There's not a lot of debris everywhere. These pictures, one on the left is just I'll say the kitchen area on the admin side. Basically all that got ripped out. The bathroom is a picture on the right. Everything got pulled out. We are not putting partitions back in the bathrooms. We are making them single-use bathrooms, which they probably should have been from the beginning. So basically you'll go in and lock the door and it's a single use. You won't have somebody coming in and saying, oh, someone's in the restroom. I'll close the door now and go back. In the process of the flood, everything happening, we've reallocated some space. The one on the left will be Travis's workspace with a window so that him and Chief Town can have conversations in the hallway. Or Travis could open a bar and grill and it's a serving window because it's right at the right height. The picture on the right is upstairs, so all the carpet's gone from there. There's some patching, and we actually found about 200 feet of cracking in the ceiling and the walls. It's also being taken care of while we're doing it. And the sheetrock finisher has already addressed that up top. The big cost for us in this building is we had original mechanical and HVAC and heating systems that were original to the building. They're 20 plus years old. That is well past the life of that kind of equipment. And we're replacing all of it. And believe it or not, in the beginning, we thought mechanical was going to be the slowdown, and we have all mechanical equipment was delivered last week to the warehouse. So it is sitting in the warehouse. They have some of the pieces and they're putting them up now. They're replacing piping, but we actually have all of the equipment well ahead of what the anticipated delivery of it was. So I'll take it as a win and keep moving forward. Any questions for 50 or any of the other projects? 25 work plan, it really looks like the 24 work plan with a few things added, and it is. We're closing out Station 53 and 57, closing out 50 and reoccupying the building. Work will continue on the training campus through the year. We will complete the permitting process of 51, go out to bid and award that bid. And here probably in a week or two, I will be a better term advertising for some members from the shifts to form a committee so we can look at Station 58 and 59 and what we're going to do. I have some ideas to speed that up. Some of the buildings that we've already visited that are new have plans, and I have those, and we will look at those. Original plans were to remodel. We will still look at that model of remodel, but with changes in building and energy code, that may not be feasible. It may be actually just as cheap to put a brand new building up. But we'll work through that. And once again, work within the budget. And once we get 51 out to bid and actually know that cost, we will have a much better idea of where we're going to land in the end. So I know it was somewhat short and I blew through it all. There is a lot of stuff behind the scenes that happen every day. It occupies time, but I just want to thank Chief Doan and the commissioners entrusting me to do this because I am learning a lot. It is keeping me busy and challenged, and when all this is done, I will be happy that it is done. So thank you.
With that, keep that slide for just a second. We'll go out to bid for 5-1, and that'll tell us where we're at with the bond money, right? You never know till you go out to bid what the real. So once that comes back, we'll know what we have left over for 5-8 and 5-9. I would say, is that a logistics building probably is not happening anymore. We just won't have enough left. you know, my crystal ball is that 51 comes in, we're hoping, and then we have enough for 12 to 15 million each for 58, 59 to rebuild those. And our guesstimates today is that we can make that happen, but who knows what's going to happen. So we'll get 51 out to bid. If it's 30 million, we'll all gulp and try to figure out what we're going to do. If it's 20, then we'll know what we have left for 5.8 and 5.9, and we'll make a plan together. But that's where we're at right now.
And we're already looking at those. I met about 3 weeks ago and we sat down with RFM and kind of did some projections, even with some increased tariffs as they're going forward. With what we have known buildings that are out there, and including some of those tariffs and timing it out to when we're building. As Chief Don said, we're still in that, 12 to $15 million. As tariffs increase and keep going up, those are the unknowns. Believe it or not, a lot of our wood comes from Canada for construction. A lot of our steel comes from Canada and China. Right now, those are two of the big targets. So those are unknowns. The thing we do have going for us, or we will, is that with all of this, there are a lot of projects that are being canceled. So competition for capital projects will be going up, which is a good thing for us. It's just a balance act between the two.
One of the ways that we're thinking, again, we may remodel 5.8 and 5.9. It depends how much money's left, but making them exactly the same, one plan, taking a plan from elsewhere to try to speed up and save costs. So that's our work plan. I'm sorry for taking that amount of time, but I hope I wanted to make sure and check in with you. Are we hitting the right mark? If we missed anything, is there anything that you have that you want to know more about, or why aren't we working on X, Y, or Z? So after tonight, we don't need a vote, but just more of a, kind of a head shake and a thumbs up, or to tell me you're missing something and we need to add something to. Other than that, that's our plan.
Questions from anybody overall? You laid out an excellent working document for all of us here, and I appreciate all the work that everybody has put in. And I know this is from everybody, the whole District 5, everybody's put in on this. So I really appreciate it, and it's informative, and I think our people that we are serving here would appreciate what's this and just see what the fire department, how they are spending their money and what we're doing to, make sure that we're being prudent with what we're doing and what they're going to gather from all that. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. Standing committee reports.
I don't think we had a standing committee. Can we take JJ's last presentation as the bond report?
Chairman's reports, I have none. Bond update?
Sorry, can we use what he just did as a bond update, or do you have
Sounds
anything
good
more
to
to
me.
add?
That
All right.
works.
Okay.
No old business, no new business. At this point, we have open public comment. If anybody would like to address this board, and you state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. Any hands raised? Oh. Good of the order. Special interest upcoming events.
Just as Chief Langlow had mentioned, on the 25th, we will be doing an award ceremony before, kind of like we did the last time. Bringing in, anyway, but we'll be doing awards at the beginning of the meeting and then taking a break like we did last time.
Executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110 1G. We will be going into executive session to review the performance of a public employee. No vote or action will be taken. And it will dress for, and start at 30 minutes. So at this time, this meeting is adjourned until we reconvene. 30, yeah, 7:20. So we'll adjourn, we will return at 7:25. If we need to extend it, we will make the announcement. But I'd like to reconvene the Board of Commissioners for Fire District 5. With no further business before this board, we are adjourned.